Hello, it is the 6th of November 2022. This is Salvatore, and I wanted to make a video today about a very, very special anniversary. Originally, I was just going to do an Instagram post, slideshow, something like that, and the idea just kind of gradually grew to make this into an actual YouTube video. And I'm planning on posting more videos to my channel. It's not really about content. It's about the fact that I have so many books and so many hobbies and a love of music and art, and I just want to do something with all of that. And I thought I could just do a series of videos every once in a while. Even if it only has interest for 2 or 3 people, if that, that's all right because it interests me, and there will at least be a record of those things. Unfortunately, the camera quality here is a little low. I have several cameras that can actually record 4K resolution. This one's only 720, but this was the easiest way for me to use my best microphone, which, as you can see, I have a face for radio, so the sound quality was more important to me than the video quality, so that I can isolate this sound and use it later in a podcast or whatever I want to do. So focusing on the sound today. At some point in the future, I'll figure out a way to get the good video quality. Also, I apologize if the Argyle sweater looks like a test pattern. If my father were here, who's a cinematographer, he would say, that is not a good shirt for television. So I apologize for that, but it felt appropriate. This is a really special time of year for me. My birthday is in early November, and I have a great love for autumn and Halloween as well. And so this time of year between kind of Halloween and my birthday has always felt like a very special time to me. And because of another special anniversary, which is principally what I'll be talking about in this video. Also, if you notice right here, this is the Halloween bag that my grandmother made for me when I was maybe 4 or 5 years old. I still have this, Grandma, and my daughter went out a few days ago for her first Halloween trick-or-treating experience and used the same bag. So if you make things with meaning for a family member, they can just last on and on and on throughout the generations. So that's kind of a nod to the Halloween season, even though we are past it at this point. So what is this special anniversary? On the 4th of November, 1922, the tomb of Tutankhamun was discovered in the Valley of the Kings by Howard Carter and his archaeological team. Now, I didn't end up studying archaeology or Egyptology. I ended up studying classics in college and have a degree in classics, which is the study of classical Rome and ancient Greece. But Egyptology was my first sort of academic historical interest for sure. And I still very much am interested in reading all that I can about it and pursuing it, and so forth. I truly have a passion for Egyptology. So much so that Highclere Castle, which is the location used to film Downton Abbey, has a special significance for me that predated that series by a long time. Most people who most Americans didn't get acquainted with Highclere Castle until that series. But Highclere Castle is the ancestral home of the Carnarvons, who were responsible for promoting and funding the dig for the tomb of Tutankhamun. And in the first book I ever read about Egyptology, many, many years ago, one of the first photo plates is of Highclere Castle. So the very first time I watched Downton Abbey many years ago when it first came out, and Highclere came up on the screen, I said, wait a minute, that's Highclere. That is the home of Lord Carnarvon. So anyway, kind of an interesting connection there with something that people will be familiar with. And so where did my Egyptology kind of journey begin? I would say that it would be with this book, Into the Mummy's Tomb, by Nicholas Reeves, which is basically a digest version for children of his full book, Tutankhamun, The King, the Tomb, the Royal Treasure, which is an amazingly comprehensive look at the discovery of King Tut's tomb. And I would highly recommend this book. Into the Mummy's Tomb is definitely out of print now, but you can get copies of it. Totally recommended for children again. And I have an interesting connection and story about this actual copy of Into the Mummy's Tomb. I did not own the book at first when I was a kid. The first time I read it, maybe 1995, 1996, somewhere in there, at a little country school called Thurston Elementary, which is the elementary school that I attended in Springfield, Oregon, which is where I grew up. Yes, I am hardcore Northwest, though these musings are coming to you from the heart of the Mountain West. But Into the Mummy's Tomb was a book in the school library that I checked out so many times that I was practically the common law de facto owner of the book. I just, as soon as it would expire, I would renew. As soon as I ran out of renewals, I would check it out again. I was just fascinated with Into the Mummy's Tomb, especially the full color, beautiful photographs. With the discovery of Tut's tomb, an incredible photographer named Harry Burton took black and white plates of the entire tomb and the discovery and excavation process. Those are some of my very favorite photographs ever taken, but it's fairly rare to see sort of high resolution full color plates of Tut's tomb. So that's one of the things that made this book very special. Now, getting back to the special connection that I have with this particular copy, at one point I came to check out Into the Mummy's Tomb again, as I had done dozens of times before, and lo and behold, it wasn't in the library, and it came up as a lost book. I was told the book had been lost and I wouldn't be able to check it out anymore, and I was very, very sad about this. And I think I ended up checking it out from the Springfield Public Library maybe at one point if they had a copy. I can't remember, but I did end up getting access to it again. The book was already out of print when I was a kid, and it was not easy then to just get on Amazon or something like that and find out of print books. So it would have been almost impossible for me to get the book at that time because it wasn't available new. Probably could have gone to Powell's maybe to find it, which if you haven't been there is possibly the best used bookstore in the world in Portland, Oregon. But years later, I was in Smith Family Bookstore in Eugene, Oregon, and for $3.50, I found this copy of Into the Mummy's Tomb. Now, what's so fascinating about this was the book was laminated like it had been a library book, and used as a bookmark, there was a little sheet of stickers that had been mine. I'm almost positive that I had used as a bookmark in this book. So I bought, years later at Smith Family Bookstore, the book that I absolutely loved as a kid. That's a long story, but it just seemed like such a great, such a great blessing at the time and good fortune to find the same copy that I loved, with these amazing full color illustrations about the discovery of the tomb of Tutankhamun. And I want to, again, and I would recommend Reeves' other book on the subject. Nicholas Reeves is a great Egyptologist. Other book on the subject, The Complete Tutankhamun, which is the kind of full version of Into the Mummy's Tomb. Highly encourage that. And so, getting to kind of where my passion came from and what I loved, the discovery of Tut's tomb was full of surprises. And to read about the accounts of those surprises is just what was incredible for me as a kid and got me really excited about archaeology, and actually was kind of what I originally wanted to study. Didn't end up going into that, but still have a great passion for Egyptology and archaeology. And in celebration of this anniversary, I wanted to shift gears a little bit, and I wanted to read from Howard Carter's book, The Tomb of Tutankhamun. Now this is, or Tutankhamun, Tomb of Tut. This is a book that was originally published in 3 volumes. My copy is a later printing from the 1970s. I think it was the first US printing. And it's just amazing to read Carter's words about discovering the tomb. I'm not going to do any kind of comprehensive video here about the discovery of the tomb itself and all of the background and all of that. I mostly just am making this to celebrate the anniversary and to celebrate a couple of my favorite moments that are associated with the discovery of his tomb. Just again, an absolutely incredible event in history. And Tut was a minor pharaoh of Egypt, and yet his tomb was just absolutely splendid. So I want to read first from Carter's account of the first time that he and his patron, Lord Carnarvon, Arthur Callender, who was also on his team, and Lord Carnarvon's daughter, Lady Carnarvon, the first time that they were able to actually go to the tomb at night and take a look at what might be inside. And this happened on the 26th of November, 1922. So again, the discovery of the tomb, 4th of November, 1922, this week, 100th anniversary of that amazing event. And again, I've always loved it because this is my birthday week as well. So I share a birthday week with the discovery of the tomb of Tutankhamun. And so I'm going to read a selection again from Howard Carter. The 26th of November was the day of days, the most wonderful that I have ever lived through, and certainly one whose like I can never hope to see again. Throughout the morning the work of clearing continued, slowly perforce, on account of the delicate objects that were mixed with the filling. Then, in the middle of the afternoon, 30 feet down from the outer door, we came upon a second sealed doorway, almost an exact replica of the first. The seal impressions in this case were less distinct, but still recognizable as those of Tutankhamun and of the royal necropolis. Here again the signs of opening and reclosing were clearly marked upon the plaster. We were firmly convinced by this time that it was a cache that we were about to open, and not a tomb. The arrangement of stairway, entrance, passage, and doors reminded us very forcibly of the cache of Akhenaten and Tyee material found in the very near vicinity of the present excavation by Davis, and the fact that Tutankhamun's seals occurred there likewise seemed almost certain proof that we were right in our conjecture. We were soon to know. There lay the sealed doorway, and behind it was the answer to the question. Slowly, desperately slowly, it seemed to us as we watched, the remains of passage debris that encumbered the lower part of the doorway were removed, until at last we had the whole door clear before us. The decisive moment had arrived. With trembling hands, I made a tiny breach in the upper left-hand corner. Darkness and blank space, as far as an iron testing rod could reach, showed that whatever lay beyond was empty, and not filled like the passage we had just cleared. Candle tests were applied as a precaution against possible foul gases, and then, widening the hole a little, I inserted the candle and peered in. Lord Carnarvon, Lady Evelyn, and Callender standing anxiously beside me to hear the verdict. At first I could see nothing, the hot air escaping from the chamber causing the candle flame to flicker. But presently, as my eyes grew accustomed to the light, details of the room within emerged slowly from the mist. Strange animals, statues, and gold. Everywhere the glint of gold. For the moment, in eternity it must have seemed to the others standing by, I was struck dumb with amazement. And when Lord Carnarvon, unable to stand the suspense any longer, inquired anxiously, "Can you see anything?" It was all I could do to get out the words, "Yes, wonderful things." Then, widening the hole a little further so that we both could see, we inserted an electric torch. So that's an incredibly famous passage of Carter's own account of their first look into the tomb. The politics of the discovery of Tut's tomb were very, very complex, and rightly so. The press was heavily involved. And so the first look that they took by just, widening a little opening in the door, they took in the dark of night to avoid all of that attention, just so they could have an idea of what they were going to find. What an incredible moment in history. Again, that's from the 26th of November, 1922. My other sort of favorite part, you could say, of the discovery of Tut's tomb has to do with the opening of the sarcophagus and the coffins, which the mummy, of course, is the focal point of the discovery of the tomb, and finding out the condition it was in, and so forth and so on. When they removed, with a system of complex pulleys, the set of coffins from the mostly quartzite sarcophagus of Tut, it was incredibly heavy. Howard Carter said that it would probably take 8 strong men to lift. And of course, typically a coffin has 6 pallbearers. If it's extremely heavy, it requires 8. And he said 8 full-grown men would be required to lift it. And they were puzzled by this because, as far as they knew, the coffins were inlaid wood, which shouldn't have been that heavy. And he said that the coffin seemed heavier than that. It defied explanation why it would be so heavy. So again, another sort of favorite part of the story for me is the gradual opening of the sort of Matryoshka doll style coffins, one within the other, as this discovery was made. And this moment that I'll read next is the last passage I'll read, but it's an incredible moment. And he's talking about here the second coffin and opening the lid of the second coffin and what he found inside. The entire inlaid surface was indeed, as already mentioned, in a very fragile condition, and any handling, so far as possible, had to be avoided. In order, therefore, to lift the lid without causing injury, metal eyelets to serve as handles were screwed into it at 4 points, where there would be no danger of permanent disfigurement. To these eyelets our hoisting tackle was fixed, the gold-headed silver nails were extracted, and the lid was slowly raised. There was at first some slight tendency for the lid to stick, but gradually it rose from its bed, and, when high enough to clear the contents of the coffin, it was lowered on to a wooden tray placed at the side to receive it. This revealed a third coffin, which, like its predecessors, was Osiride in form, but the main details of the workmanship were hidden by a close-fitting, reddish-colored linen shroud. The burnished gold face was bare. Placed over the neck and breast was an elaborate bead and floral collarette, sewn upon a backing of papyrus, and tucked immediately above the Nemes headdress was a linen napkin. Mr. Burton at once made his photographic records. I then removed the floral collarette and linen coverings. An astounding fact was disclosed. This third coffin, 6 feet and 1 3/4 of an inch in length, was made of solid gold. The mystery of the enormous weight, which hitherto had puzzled us, was now clear. It explained also why the weight had diminished so slightly after the first coffin, and the lid of the second coffin had been removed. Its weight was still as much as 8 strong men could lift. How great must have been the wealth buried with those ancient pharaohs! What riches that valley must have once concealed. So again, that's just kind of a very visceral moment for me, the discovery of why is this coffin so heavy? And they opened it and realized that the third coffin, and this, of course, they had no idea of, was made of solid gold. This boy king was buried with such love and such care. And it's just, I don't know, to me, it's just sort of a poignant moment. And I wish, if I had a time machine, this is one of the moments in history that I would love to see, this realization of a solid gold coffin, which, if the bullion was melted down today, just the value of the melted bullion, without even considering it as being a priceless historical object of historical value, just the bullion melted down would be worth several $millions. Again, totally encourage everyone, read The Tomb of Tutankhamun by Howard Carter. Easily available, used from a lot of sources. The Complete Tutankhamun by Nicholas Reeves, the great Egyptologist, and his little digest for children into the Mummy's Tomb, which is a little bit hard to find, but is an incredible book. Again, this was not meant to be any kind of comprehensive survey of Egyptology, any comprehensive survey of Tut. There's so much to the story, and maybe the next anniversary or sometime soon we can talk more about the legend of the curse, those kind of misconceptions and things of that nature. But I just wanted to celebrate. I just wanted to make a record and sort of be cognizant of the fact that this is the 100th anniversary of this incredible struggle. I mean, one of the best things about what ended up happening, in my opinion, of course, with the discovery as well, was that typically the deals that were made for excavators in Egypt at that time was that much of the material that was extracted from these tombs would then be taken back to the excavator's country of origin. Almost everything stayed in Egypt after the discovery of Tut's tomb, which I think is wonderful. Although the initial deal with Lord Carnarvon was that he would be able to remove quite a bit of it, and a disagreement between Carter and his patron Carnarvon about that, because Carter felt strongly that the artifacts should stay in Egypt as well. That led to a break between them and a disagreement between them, unfortunately. But I think that was the right thing. And I hope in future that the politics around seeing these wonderful artifacts won't be quite as complex, and that more people will be able to go to Egypt and see these wonderful things, as Howard Carter put it. So that's what I wanted to say about Tut, this special anniversary week. Again, I think this video will be of interest to comparatively few, but I wanted to get it on record. Soon I will upload another video, again, possibly about a book, maybe a film, a great work of music or literature that I also want to discuss, because I have a massive library, a massive library for someone that lives in a 1,500 square foot house, over 1,000 books, so I want to discuss those and make use of that library. So thanks so much for joining me.